Mark. He went onto my website by my adopted country, Nigeria, and he has come up with 3 questions for me to answer. Right, Mark? Far away, baby.
Yeah, so first question, I was kind of curious, like, what, I was reading on here that, like, something about girls that got kidnapped. I was just kind of curious, like, what happened to them?
So, first, Fox News reported that it's a mystery. They don't really know what's happened to them. They've been kidnapped, and, like, no one really knows what happened. Like, ISIS came along, global warmings. Fox News said, like, no one really knows what's kind of happened to them.
So they're just pretty much...
Nobody knows. It's a mystery.
So were they kidnapped or were they not?
They were kidnapped, yeah.
So they were kidnapped, but
no one knows what the state of them is. Are they dead? Are they moved? No one really knows what the status of them is.
This makes me want to go to Nigeria, just saying. But whatever happened to the... No, I was going to say... Like the government there, like what's it like? Is it like kind of communism?
So the government is, it's very similar to ours. So people get like elected in through a democracy vote. They were kind of under a military dictatorship until 1999, 2000 area, where they became this kind of democracy type deal. So they're very similar to us. They have a legal system, executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, elections. So they elected this president. And the president is Muhammadu Buhari.
Muhammadu.
Yeah.
That's the president?
That's the president. Yeah.
And what's he like? Like, what are his policies?
So the president...
That was another question I was going to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of okay. What's the president like?
So he was like an old military commander. He's very like in favor of like freedom of religion. He's against same-sex like relations and stuff like that. He really wants to like fix the economy because the economy in Nigeria isn't very good. He wants to stop the corruption because it's very corrupt due to like the oil factories down in like the southern part of Nigeria, and like stop the violence in the north and kind of overall corruption of. So, to answer your 3 questions.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I'm
cool.
Impressed.
Okay. Now I need to teach you about the 8 Millennium Development Goals, what they are, who developed them, what they are, and so forth. So, the 8 Millennial Developmental Goals were created by the Millennium Summit, which is part of the UN, United Nations. In 2000, they came up with these 8 goals to help developing countries develop more and progress. So what they are is basically eliminate poverty and hunger, get primary education to everybody. They want gender equality, reduce child mortality, improve maternal health, prevent diseases like HIV, AIDS, malaria, Ebola, other diseases and stuff like that. Create a environmentally good, solid environment. What's it called? To ensure environmental stability, and then they want a global partnership to help them like progress economically and stuff like that. So now, that's what the 8 goals are and how they're going to help the countries like that. So now, I'll tell you how Nigeria is doing. You saw on my website a little bit about it, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about it. So, Nigeria, they struggle with like poverty and hunger. They're not going to meet their goals. So the goals are set to be met in 2015 at the end of this year, and so they're not going to meet their goal because it's just kind of like the southern part of the country is doing alright, but the northern part of Nigeria is kind of just like a mess. It's corrupt, it's bad, it's not in really good shape. They've made some really good strides to help eliminate poverty and hunger, but they're not going to make it. And then education, they've done really well. They have all these kids going to school, but there's a problem. They don't have the supplies, the textbooks, or the classrooms to all these kids. So these like teachers will have like 50 to 100 kids in their class of like primary, like 1st to like 6th grade. So they have all these kids and they're just like, what do we do with them? the third goal, gender equality, they've done really well. So like the grade schools are about 50-50 boys and girls. The thing is, they're not really getting women empowered in like government, political like involvement places and like high government and stuff like that. So they're gonna meet their primary education goal, and they've met their gender equality goal. But then I'm gonna combine kind of three: child mortality, maternal health, and HIV/AIDS. They're not gonna meet these goals, like preventing those, because you saw on the website like there's a lot of like diseases and stuff like this that could be cured with just medicine, treatment, and stuff like that, because they don't have the hospitals, the ER places. Basically like they don't have the equipment to like cure these like simple preventable diseases, and because of that, there's causing like lots of deaths over the course of years. Like you saw on the website, thousands of deaths are happening because they're just not getting the treatment and the care that they need. So they're not going to meet their goals in child mortality, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, and reducing HIV/AIDS and malaria. However, Nigeria is Ebola-free, so that's a good plus. Their environment, like they have a lot of oil factories in the southern part of the country. The problem is there's just loads of oil spills, and they're not really like doing anything to like help them. They're kind of getting bullied by like bigger bigger businesses. They're just kind of going in and like making these spills of the oil places and stuff like that, and like they're just not really doing it. Like they're just like leaving the spills, and they're just kind of screwing it up. They're just messing up the ecosystem, the water, the wildlife and stuff like that, which is hurting the environment. And so they kind of need to help clean up the oil spills. So they're not going to meet their goal in environmental, and they're not going to meet their goal in global partnership, because they're kind of just getting bullied by these bigger like countries like the Dutch Royal Shell oil company. They're just kind of going and pumping this oil, and they're just kind of like destroying a wasteland of Nigeria and stuff like that. So they're not really there. So lastly, let me tell you my views on what the goal should be and why. How is Nigeria doing, and how can it improve, and where it's going in the future, stuff like that. So I think the goals are good. Developmental goals. I think they help create like a balance of like the country, and I think it's definitely like improving. Like we saw on the website, like there's multiple, like it's increasing step by step, little by little, like every little bit. So although they're not going to make their goals that they've set for 2015, they've still made a good amount of progress. I think as well, what the country really needs is it needs to like fix its corruption, because like that's like the biggest problem that they have. They have these oil things, and then people are just like, here's some money, you didn't see this type deal. And so like although they're putting money to help like clean up the oil spills, like the money that they're putting in is not like the amount, like it's not covered, it's not like it's doing more harm than it is good, if that makes sense. Like they're not putting in enough money to accurately like clean up the spills and stuff like that. And as well, there's a lot of like they need the like medical. They just need medicine to help them basically get better, because there's a lot of easily preventable diseases that aren't being prevented because they just don't have the medicine, the treatment, and the care to basically cure them. So if they get those two things cleaned up, I think Nigeria is headed in a good future. And that's it. So Mark, based on what I told you, I know I've been like a fire hose, just like spraying information on you and stuff. But what do you think? If you were like president of Nigeria and you could like make a decision to like change the country.
So if I was president, what would I do?
You're president of Nigeria, what would you do to like help the country of Nigeria?
I kind of feel like something, that's a good question. Man. Probably get to really do something related to like the healthcare type situation. Because at least like even the pictures on your website I saw, that was sad, man.
Like the poverty and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's rough.
So I would say the healthcare, definitely. That's like number one on the list. You got to figure out some way to like help those people out. Because I mean, if they're that poor, then
Yeah.
there's got to be. I mean, they can't be getting treated well, good enough, like their healthcare and
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like, what happens if somebody gets cancer down there? You know, like who's gonna pay for that? I doubt the government will, because the government's not gonna have the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know. That's just something I would do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, definitely. I think the leadership down there probably lacks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my guess.
I think part of that is because like they've only really been a democracy since like 1999 to 2000.
Oh, okay.
So
they're
like it's still
transitioning kind of
like
thing?
young. I think like this was their second or third president like that they've had. So like it's still a very like young country. They're still trying to figure things out. But like I definitely agree with you. I think they need some kind of like healthcare, more people, medicine, treatment and stuff to help like
Some.
to help with because there's a lot of like death. You saw the numbers on the website. It's
Yeah.